Welcome to This Week I'm Learning, the podcast where the hosts alternate between uppers and downers in a responsible fashion, but the topics are always half-baked. I'm your host, Brandon Vader. Joining me down below, Mr. Stratman, also known as Cody or Psychonitrous. To the other direction, we have Charlie Stifler, also known as Mjolnir. And down cattywampus is Seeker4761. That's the amount of caffeine I've had today.
Or the amount of
going to
times.
say hello.
Not even close.
And I'm going to say hello for our audio listeners. So, hello.
Yeah.
True.
Rip audio listeners.
Sorry, they are there. I promise you guys.
I love
Watch
you,
the YouTube if you want to see them say hello.
Yes.
We'll get it some year. I forget it's half the time too.
Yeah. It happens. We're still growing. This is only episode 25. Recorded 11/28/2020. We're almost through, but Apocalypse Bingo is just giving us more to go on this year.
Plenty of time left to fuck it all up more.
Come on, bring on level 12 of Jumanji.
I mean, we already have zombies rising from the grave in Denmark.
Oh.
The minks that were cold.
Oh.
This is bonus topic. They buried I think more than that. I can't remember.
Millions.
Yeah, it's millions of minks.
Probably. In only 1 meter of soil. And it's soft, sandy soil. So as the bodies
They can
are
dig.
decomposing,
They can dig, you fools! You've killed us all.
It's terrible.
Silly Danish.
Yeah, it's not actually zombies, but everybody, like all the media outlets, are calling it zombies, and it's funny, doing it, for the memes.
So they're not sexy
the end of the world.
minks. You sexy minks.
The hardest part about the zombie apocalypse will be hiding my excitement.
Like right now?
Well, you need
I can
to,
tell.
because otherwise they're going to eat you because you're too excited and making noise and stuff.
It's true.
They'll
You have
know
to.
You're the lively one of the bunch.
You have to blend in.
I also happen to be the best shot in the group, but whatever.
Do
Ooh,
we
strong
know
words.
that?
sir. Strong words.
Do you
Never
remember
tested
trying
this.
to shoot? Do you remember when I shot Skeet with a 9mm handgun and you all wasted ammunition trying to match it?
No, because I've never
That
shot
was
with
Cody.
you, Charlie.
That was Cody, and that was Nate. And I'm certain I'm better shot than Brandon.
long
And
time
in fairness,
ago.
Colton, we've
Ooh.
still never met face to face. So
That's true.
What?
what am I supposed to do?
Okay. This summer, at some point, you and I need to go shooting.
Yes. Yes.
Anyway, let's get back on the rails. So, it's going to be an interesting show tonight. Cody is going to tell us how he's sometimes kind of maybe wrong. Maybe.
Perhaps.
Perhaps.
There's the screenshot.
Colton is going to tell us that computers are astronomically older than we think.
Interesting.
Oh, crap. Charlie told me this, but I was not fully listening. But Charlie is going to tell us how Albert Einstein, Max Planck, and Louis de Broglie said so about something. Possibly.
Close enough.
That's okay.
Louis de Bro. And
Broly.
then
Dragon Ball
Brandon.
Super.
Yeah. Brandon has got a twofer. And the first one is M1 meets 10. And then go eat yourself. That sounds like
Delicious.
an insult. I mean, I'm personally properly seasoned, but I don't know about anybody else.
All right. You heard it here first. We are going to eat Charlie if it comes down to it when those minks come out.
Yeah.
Unless we can get it, we have to sneak up on him because he thinks he's the best shot. So we're gonna have to be real careful about this. But we're not planning this. So don't worry about this. Charlie, you just drink. Yes. Yes.
Yes, more.
Colton's the first one to go.
It's all right. I could disappear in the desert. You'd never find me.
That is an
I'd
ability
probably
he
be-
gets a
I'd-
juice on.
Colton is
I-
found 2 weeks later.
I was gonna say, I'd probably
sunburned
be.
to a crisp, just dead.
See,
Just dead.
that's the kind of friend I am. It'd be nice jerky for you guys, so you're welcome. I'm delicious, goddammit.
Okay.
For the love of God, Cody, start us.
No, this is fun.
Cody, tell us
This
how
is
you were
fun.
wrong. Possibly.
So
Sometimes, maybe.
yeah, I might be wrong, but we'll see. And there's a lot of stuff that maybe means I'm not wrong. So what I'm talking about is several episodes ago, I was talking about how they were saying that you are more likely to get struck by lightning than to catch COVID on a plane. Well, there was a flight from Dubai to Auckland where one person who was asymptomatic, infected, well, also affected, 7 other people on that flight. Now, what we don't know is if it was actually on that flight or if it was airports, wherever. We know that the person was sitting relatively in the same area on the plane. Matter of fact, there's a really cool study. You can read the study. I'll have the link in the show notes for it, where they actually detail out where each person was sitting and which person came from which area. They suspect that it came from Switzerland, was the originating person, and that throughout the flight, that person infected. So 3 people were probably infected before they got on the plane, and then, or before they started traveling and met each other. Now, they were not part of the same travel group. 2 of them were part of the same travel group, and then there were 2 from South Africa, where one person got infected because of this, but because of the timeline, they think that one of the people from South Africa infected the other person while they were quarantining once they got to New Zealand. So it's interesting. Now, masks were not mandatory on this flight, but most of the people self-reported that they did wear them. Now, all the people on this tested negative 72 hours prior, or in that time frame of at least 72 hours or closer before departure. So we know that they tested negative with a PCR test. That's important too, not an antigen test, so not the test that gets most people wrong. But this kind of calls into question, a lot of places are trying to reduce the quarantine period because, well, who can travel and dedicate 2 weeks to quarantining, then actually go on their vacation? Like, out of all of us right now, there's none of us that could do that. And I don't think very many people in the U.S. could actually do that. So it's problematic for countries' economies or states' economies that rely on tourism. But unfortunately, reducing the quarantine periods is not going to really help in the situation until we actually have a vaccine. But luckily, we've got like 3 different vaccine candidates at this point, or 2 and maybe another, depending on the study.
Technically, it's 3.5. It's the 3 big pharma and then the Russian.
Oh, okay. I wasn't counting the Russian or the Chinese one. So it was Pfizer, Moderna, and then what's the
AstraZeneca.
And which one? There was one they were talking about calling into question because there was. I just saw the headline today, but there was part of like the studying where they were questioning something about it and may not actually approve it because of that. Okay. There was one of them that was slightly questionable at this point, but we'll know more later. But either way,
I gotta say, I have learned so much about the fucking process of getting a vaccine, like, approved this year, more than I've ever wanted to know in my entire goddamn life.
Yep.
Like, Jesus Christ, how is it like the world is ending? Not really, but how is it like there's a pandemic going on and somehow it's still fucking boring to talk about the virus and how it's being, like, the actual virus, or sorry, not the virus, the vaccine. It's kind of boring. Like, the actual process itself, not what you're talking about, Cody, to be clear, but the
That's
actual
okay.
like
I'm bored.
the legality of it, the fucking process, the oh god. And I know about it. So, sorry. That's my little rant.
The New York Times actually did a really cool, like, and I think it's still available. I forget the actual URL for it, but they have like a list of all of the vaccines, and they're done by type, and also how far they are through the different phases and trials. So it's interesting to take a look at that and like look at the different, because it's not just one kind of virus or antivirus or vaccine. There's different types too, so it's really cool to go through that and just check all those out.
Yeah, I haven't really been paying close attention to it, to be honest.
Yeah,
Might have to-
I've been reading a lot about the actual what the vaccines are. So like the RNA versus retrovirus versus, all that stuff. But you can ask Brandon. I've been doing that for 15, 16 years now. I read studies all the time because I'm that kind of geek. So.
I mean, what are your thoughts on the quarantine period? And now, here, actually, I do have to say one thing that I just remembered. The studies that were done on the airplanes, aside from Boeing's, where they actually infected people with a, like, I forget that there's a terminology for this kind of virus, but basically it's a virus that's not harmful to humans, but is trackable. Most of the airlines had people sit in their seats, or had the dummies sit in their seats and not go anywhere, which is different than real world people taking their masks off to eat, to drink, to go to the lab, to do whatever. Or the boarding process. That would be the potential part that I would be most concerned with, is getting, 30 people stuck in a jet bridge somewhere. Now, I have no idea whether this actually took place on this flight, so that could be wrong. Again, take it or leave it. This is why statistics by themselves don't really tell the whole story, so just be aware of that.
Yep.
But
Context is everything.
Yep. So it's interesting. It sucks for anybody that was looking forward to going to a country that was thinking about changing their restrictions and their quarantine period. But, yeah.
Yep.
Well, regardless, if the science says it can change, then it can change, but they can't just change it based on the wants of traveling the world. Like,
Well, what they were...
if the science says it's okay, then that's one thing. But to have a government arbitrarily change it because
And the reason...
Economic
travel,
pressure or
that's-
unhappiness.
that's a different. That's kind of. I mean, I know it's not black and white.
Yeah, and I
there's
need
other
you to give you the
factors.
reason that they were considering changing it. Is because if you get a test 72 hours prior to departure, then you get a test after you arrive, and then a second test 5 days after you arrive, that you should have gone through the period in which the test would catch that you actually have the virus. So if you are clear through that amount of time, you should actually be clear. However, if you have it, if one of those tests catch it, then obviously you're going to be quarantined through the period in which you don't have the virus anymore. So that's what the logical reason behind that was. But if you can get tested and get a negative test beforehand, which anybody who flies right now, at least on these long haul flights, has to have a test 72 hours prior to departure. Then if that test doesn't show you, which this asymptomatic person had the test but came out negative, then that calls into question that procedure.
Right, and then you also have the factor, like municipal testing, that they're not getting test results in 72 hours. They're getting it outside of 72 hours.
Yeah.
So I have to have the test done, but I am hoping to God that I get the results before I fly. It's just not functional.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's lots of stories about people that were actually had these trips booked that had to cancel their flight because their test didn't come back in time. So they had to go through another test, try and get that test in time. So somebody has been retested like 2 or 3 different times to get on the flight to go back or wherever they were trying to go. So, yeah, that calls into question an issue, but not every country is as bad as testing as we are. So, and it might not just be to be fair, it might not be just bad at testing. It might just be because of the percentage of positives. You can't do batch testing when you have a high amount of positives, because then you have to keep retesting. Yep. So it's part of it might be our fault, but part of it's just, society's fault.
Yep. Well, and I mean,
Fuck society.
Right now we are breaking records again.
Woo!
United
Stay
States
ahead of India.
#1.
Gotta stay ahead of India. Do your part.
USA.
Go make out with some strangers just on the street. Just give them some tongue.
Speaking of memes, it's the one where the guy on the podium bites the medal, kisses the woman that's giving out the medals, and it pans out, and he's like third place. Yeah. Except for it actually puts him on the top, and it's for most infections. That's how I feel right now.
Yep.
So bad.
Well, let's switch to a slightly more hopeful topic.
And not COVID related, for the love of fucking God.
It's travel. I had to do travel.
I know.
Yeah. No, you're fine, Cody. But I want to hear about astronomically old computers, because that's what kind of nerd I am.
Ah, you're so predictable. Let me get my notes up from OneNote, since we like to keep things secret. Makes it fun.
It does make it
By the
fun.
way, in case anybody was wondering, it was a 777-300. It's the aircraft. Just a little tidbit. Because
that's a
Emirates
TWIL
doesn't have
tidbit.
anything smaller.
That could go on our Twitter page. Our little TWIL tidbits I try to do at least once a week, which I need to do daily. So that's where I'm feeling. But we like computers here at TWIL. To different... Nah, I mean, you're right. We don't.
What am
End
I
of
doing? I hate
everything.
Stop it, Brandon.
Yeah, I was going to say, you and your new computer that you get every goddamn month, it feels like.
Get the reformat. If he doesn't reformat in more than 2 weeks, he goes insane.
That's the kind of nerd Brandon is. Reformatting. Ooh. Organization. Ooh. Which I actually think is interesting from a technological standpoint. But what is the oldest computer that you guys know of? Like, digital computer.
No, I can't be
like what year?
Your brain.
Roughly.
Digital?
60s?
Farther.
60.
I don't consider Enigma digital, but I
no, that's analog. That is an analog
Okay,
computer.
analog,
That does not count.
I think something in Bletchley Park, what they used to crack Enigma, was digital, but
analog.
Yeah, so the 40s.
It is the 40s, but it was not. I think it was 1947. I think was the first classical, like digital, like the first digital computer. But in terms of history, you mentioned the Enigma machine, which is technically a computational device. It's not a digital one, but it is actually an analog computational device. So technically, it is a computer. What do you think? When do you think the first analog computer was
abacus?
created? And we're not going to talk.
Yeah.
To be fair, we're not talking abacuses, slide rules, stuff like that. Those are too simple. Think of a computer as you put inputs in and you get an output that you don't like. A human
So like
does
a
not.
cash register.
Yes, more like that, or like think of like more like a typewriter type of a mechanical device. You press a button, some things happen, an output happens. There's no human intervention in the actual outputs themselves.
I was reading a book, and I can't remember when it was set, if it was the 17 or 1800s, about this English nobleman who had this idea for like a mechanical general computer, and I don't know that he ever built it, but it was like right around then that they were starting to toy with the idea.
Technically you're right. That I think the one you're talking about, it was a calculator that was able to calculate basic arithmetic, like adding and subtraction, using some sort of like weird mechanical push thing. I kind of saw that in my research, but you are about 1600 years too young in that case for the first mechanical computer.
Really?
Right?
The Romans or the Chinese?
So wait, would you consider a sundial a computer?
No.
No.
There's no mechanical parts. There's no, again, we're thinking a mechanical analog device.
All right, you got me stumped.
So
Yeah.
you were close, Charlie. Technically, it was the Greeks who actually had the first one. So let me tell you a little bit of a story here. So in 1900, Greek sponge divers off of the island of Antikythera. Sorry if I am butchering that, but I'm pretty sure I looked up 3 different videos on this fucking thing, and that's what the island's called, Antikythera, which is in modern day Greece. When they found an ancient Roman shipwreck, it was about 150 feet below the surface. It was filled with coins, pottery, statues, and not Roman stuff. It has Greek cargo on it. But they also found a very strange device. It was so strange that this particular device that they found, that the historians for almost 50 years after had no idea what it even was. It almost wasn't even interesting to them because they didn't know. They knew the coins were valuable. They knew the pottery. The statues that I saw in pictures are like stunning. They're classical Greek statues. The device that they found, in just basic looking at it, they thought it was a toy. They thought it was a clock. They thought it was some kind of weird astrolabe. And it wasn't until about 59 years after they discovered it, that Princeton science historians did a thorough study on this particular device and determined that it was a mechanical astronomical calculator. This particular device is known as the Antikythera mechanism, which to me is kind of like an awesome like D&D quest kind of item. Like the Antikythera mechanism you must find to kill the orcs or whatever the fuck.
The answer I should have come up with was a sextant, which is a 1600s sailing invention. But this sounds like it's a digital, or not digital per se, but a computational device that's equivalent to a sextant.
Kind of. I mean, sort of. It's more, think of more like a planetarium in your hand. Is kind of what it actually is. So this device is, as I said, the Antikythera mechanism, and it's also known as the world's oldest mechanical analog computer. So they were able to date this shipwreck to around 50 BCE, 60 specifically, 60 BCE. But the actual device was probably made about 100 years before that, is what they're thinking. Yeah, there's a whole story behind the shipwreck alone. It's pretty freaking cool. Like, there's stories of a lot of the stuff that they found on this shipwreck was taken from war, and they're finally transporting it like 100 years later back to Rome. really cool stuff, but that's not what we're talking about. So again, around the 50s, 1959, they discovered that this device is more than just a random piece of wreckage. They didn't even know. They had no idea. It was not until the 2000s, though, that scientists actually used scanning technology, X-rays specifically, to really see for the first time how intricate and complex the Antikythera mechanism really was and actually is. They found that this device used 30 individual bronze gears in order to accurately predict the position of the sun and moon relative to the Earth. So we're talking a device that actually has a physical representation of the Earth, sun, and moon in little stones, and they're able to, a user could actually input something into the system. I think it was a date or something.
Yeah.
And the system, they could turn a crank, and it will actually compute a lot of different information, such as the phase of the moon, because the actual moonstone itself was a black and white, like half black, half white stone, and it would actually rotate as it rotates. So they could go hundreds of years in the future and actually predict to the day what the phase of the moon is at that time.
Less leap year, but whatever.
No, and that's the thing. They actually accounted for leap year according to this.
Really?
They not specifically leap year as we know it, but they accounted for the discrepancies.
0.25, yeah.
Yeah, they accounted for it. It's not perfectly accurate because scientists found that it's off by about a degree in terms of like the sky, a degree about every 500 years or so. But it's still a device the size. I mean, it's only roughly this big or so, and it's able to predict super accurate astronomical events using gear ratios that aren't even used today.
I remembered as soon as you said the name of the island that it was found off of, I was thinking maybe it was that. And then when you started going into detail, it's like, oh my God, I know this. I was reading an article like the start of the summer about how there was a team that actually 3D printed a replica of this to actually determine like fully what it was able to calculate and what it was able to do.
Oh, it's like it blew my mind, the shit that this device was able to calculate. Like the Greeks actually didn't know that the moon had an elliptical orbit. They weren't able to put the math together for whatever reason. At least generally scientists back then didn't see that. But they still accounted for how the moon would randomly slow down basically by putting a special like push pin gear that would like slow the moon down as it's rotating. Because again, this thing is like working like not solar system, astronomical body thing. So as they would crank the gear, every rotation, a little pin would go in and slow down the moon and actually account for the elliptical orbit. They couldn't do it mathematically, but they were able to observationally. They saw something was going on, and they actually accounted for it in this device. Like
That's incredible.
It's fucking incredible, honestly. The amount of things this thing could predict. Like they actually, I mean, you guys know that the Olympics started in Greece, and there was athletic events were festivals. They were super important to the Greeks. There was actually a dial on this particular device that told the user when the Olympics were supposed to happen. Like they
awesome.
they integrated into this. Like it fucking blew my mind. And again, this is something it's 60 BCE, so
Or
2,000 goddamn years ago.
If you were saying,
Yeah,
because you were saying
60
it's 100
yeah,
years older.
you're right. 160 BCE roughly. Like super fucking cool. So when I researched this, couldn't get out of my mind thinking where we could be as a species had like the Dark Ages didn't happen, had the Roman Empire didn't fall. Like scientifically, if they were able to, like the stuff that the Greeks were able to do, like they were able to predict the circumference of the Earth to within what 1%. Does someone want to clarify that?
Yeah, it's 1%.
Using two sticks and math, like basically two sticks. There's more to it, but that's pretty much all they used. And to think where we could be as a society had that scientific knowledge that that trajectory had kept going, I mean, fuck, we should be in the damn stars by now.
I don't know. I
This
mean,
is going to be
you learn so much from your failures as a society too. It's like saying if world. I know the Dark Ages are a bit different than World War II, but I think that in order to bring us to that point, we have to had gone through everything that we had gone through. It's a weird thought experiment either way.
this is a very controversial point of observation, but there is a parallel to be drawn between the scientific trajectories of a given society and the role that their religion plays. If you go back to the point where Islamic astronomers and scientists were doing their math and figuring out the cosmic truths of the Earth, if you remove their anti-scientific religion component, they would be 1,000 years ahead of even the Christians and the Greeks, and as far as their scientific knowledge. So, the Dark Ages happened because, the Huns burned Rome and society, as everyone
it was
knew,
the fall of the Roman Empire that. Yeah.
But really, the reason why it lasted as long as it did was because religion was like, all right, this is our time, and controlled, and became the basic form of government.
Well, yeah, it's again, I'm thinking like macro here, not individually.
Oh, yeah.
Like if this particular device had been perfected even back then and survived to today, who knows what that trajectory would have changed. But as a overall society, if the overall belief in the sciences had been kept up at that trajectory, like I said, we would be who knows where we'd be. Obviously, a lot of things would be different. Like Rome might never have happened, kind of thing. If who knows? But it's still an interesting thought experiment to think macroly. If a certain mindset as a society had kept going at a certain way, I mean, we also could have killed ourselves to in the 1500s. Who knows? I mean,
could have nuked ourselves in the 1400s. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thought experiment. But you mentioned how religion plays a role in, well, history in this case. This device actually, according to an inscription they'd actually found on this device, they were in Greek. They were able to translate it. It's essentially an instruction manual. It's kind of cool in itself. Apparently, this device was also able to it could predict the phases of the moon, but it also could predict lunar and solar eclipses based on whatever the user actually wanted. So again, that's another input you could put in a computer. But it actually could determine the color, I guess, of the particular, I guess in this case it'd be the lunar cycle most likely. And religion still played a part back then. So they were a superstitious lot, those Greeks. So it also kind of helped, at least in their minds, it helped them predict this harvest is going to be a certain thing. That means this color's happening in the lunar eclipse. That means this next lunar cycle is going to be this, and this based on whatever astrology, essentially what they use. So it's kind of it's another kind of cool. Yeah, it's a highly sophisticated scientific instrument, but it still had their culture built into it with the Olympic Games. Their weird thing about the color of the eclipses. It's just fascinating. And again, it's super cool. So that's what I learned this week.
That's an awesome thing to learn.
Yeah. Science from people hell of a lot smarter than I will ever think to be, just by looking and paying attention and recording everything. So yeah, super cool. But it seems like this is a good segue for Charlie, because it looks like he's going to tell us about some famous physicists potentially.
So,
or at least what they believe.
Again, putting my glasses on so I can actually fucking read, because in case you were wondering, this is the Hubble Space Telescope. So what I'm going to be talking about tonight is solar sails and why they shouldn't work, but somehow they do. So physicists as early as Albert Einstein, Max Planck, Louis de Broglie. Nice attempt at the name, by the way.
Broglie.
He's French.
Broglie.
It's de Broglie. Hypothesized that a solar sail would work not because of wind in space, but because of photons hitting a surface and imparting momentum. So to kind of walk back a little bit, so one of the 5 propulsion styles that we currently possess, and I won't go into all of them, I can cover them in other times, but you have pulsed photon, you have conventional thrust, you've got cold gas, you've got ion, and you've got solar sail. Solar sail, theoretically, if we were to take actual laws of physics and just finite them down to what is basic and understandable, that photons are massless and are sizeless, but they also behave like a particle and a wave. It's a massless particle. So momentum, in order to change one's velocity, is a function of mass times velocity. So if their mass is 0, anything times 0 is infinitely 0. What we actually found out in practical application, and what these 3 scientists theorized through relativity, is that photons manage to have momentum without mass, and that is a function of their frequency. So a photon's momentum is proportional to its frequency. So blue light, being a much higher frequency, has a much higher momentum. So if you can hit something with a lot of blue light, you're actually changing its momentum. In atmosphere, in person to person, if you shoot me with a bunch of ultraviolet light, I'm not going to move. But in space, in a vacuum where there is no atmosphere and there is no gravitational force applied to me at the moment, you can change my momentum. So there were 2 light sail vehicles that were launched by NASA in the last 10 years or 5 years. Light Sail 1, which was launched in May of 2015, it had a 340 square foot sail. And then Light Sail 2, which was launched in June of 2019, which is a 344 square foot sail. They were both launched to prove the concept that you can add momentum via a solar sail.
Wasn't Bill Nye
These are
working on
both.
this, or is this a
Yes,
different project?
Bill
Okay.
Nye. This is was funded by the Planetary Society, which Bill Nye is the current president of. The Planetary Society was founded by Carl Sagan and the likes of him. And what they found is that, yes, they can change the velocity, the momentum of an object, but it is directly proportional to the weight and the diameter of, or the surface area of the sail. They have recently launched, or their theoretical speed limit for this is about 150,000 miles per hour. However, there is something called D-Star. D-Star, which stands for Directed Energy System for Targeting of Asteroids and Exploration, is a 10 kilometer by 10 kilometer laser array, theoretical, that could be shot at a solar sail or laser sail and propel it 300 times past that 150,000 mile an hour speed limit, which would make a trip to Mars happen in 3 days, which would make a trip to Alpha Centauri in 15 years. Now, the problem, and the immense problem, is that the laser sail would have to be 1 micron thick and would have to be about the same size as the island of Manhattan. Just a small problem.
I feel like the thickness is the bigger problem. I think
So this is
like the scale of the actual sail probably isn't the problem. It's obviously the micron that's the big problem.
So this
It
is
is.
Getting it that thin and
well,
strong
the
enough
solution
to
is
propel it.
graphene or carbon nanotubes.
Carbon nanotubes?
Yeah.
Potentially, yes. What?
The other big problem is also going to be deceleration on the other end.
Exactly.
The laser array.
Yeah.
So,
Your first one that you build has to be a corresponding laser.
You could
array.
always. There's
Right.
an easy way to stop. Just hit the planet or whatever.
so
Instant break.
Oh, take
for
it, you're
the
not
Mars
beyond that
project, you could make a gate and basically have a laser array on one end and a laser array on the other, and you hit your optimal cruise velocity, you hit both lasers off for a little bit, and then you flip on the receiving laser for a little while, and you decelerate, and, granted, that would change your 3-day transit time to about 9 days, because slower acceleration, get to your midpoint, you cruise, and then a graduated deceleration in order to get there in one piece. So the first trip is the long one, but the second trip, that's where it's at. But again, it's a 10 by 10 kilometer laser array. That's incredibly difficult to build. Now, that said,
I mean, once you
NASA
build
is starting
one,
with a 10 meter
Yeah.
laser array. And their plan is to basically just glom onto it and make it a larger and larger array. There's the concept of a wafer satellite. So you guys know what a CubeSat is. It's basically a loaf of bread size satellite. Well, a wafer sat would be about 10 grams.
Jeez.
And you could launch that sucker
For your
25% the speed of light.
I feel like
with
people
the
need
laser array.
something to compare that to.
10 grams
Your
would be...
GoPro is about 100. The GoPro 9, I believe, was like 150 grams. Just
Yep.
as
So 15
well
times
referenced.
lighter than that.
In your average packet of sugar, 1 gram of sugar
Yes.
would be 10
A sugar packet.
packets of
10,
sugar.
10 sugar packets is the size of this potential wafer satellite. That with the 10 by 10 a laser array, we could accelerate to the speed of 25% the speed of light. And we could absolutely smack the shit out of Alpha Centauri with that 10 packets of sugar. If it makes it.
Would you like some sugar,
asteroid
Alpha
belts and
Centauri?
I wonder, in terms of deceleration, if they could use techniques, I don't know, figure out some sort of planet, if they, whatever system they're going
Gravity
to,
assist.
use the planets or whatever to decelerate, or can they do that? Is it always acceleration? Never thought about that. Yeah.
So
Maybe not the atmosphere, but
you would have to perform a slingshot maneuver from 15 light years away, or from 5 light years away, and then you would have to hit it on the way back. So it would have to slingshot around the sun of that system, and then you would have to shoot it dead straight on in order to slow it down into that system. And then it would have to have its own propulsion in the local system in order to maneuver. So
well, then you're just dealing with regular.
Huge problems still. But it is, of all of the propulsion systems, the one where we can actually potentially get to the next solar system in our lifetime. Potentially.
So
That blows that other speed limit out
I
of the water.
wonder-
What was that?
Yeah, it is.
150,000 miles an hour?
The one we were talking about, the manhole cover.
Oh.
no.
That probably isn't.
Just yoted.
Oh.
We.
No, I wonder if when they build that 10-meter array, what kind of force just firing the laser is going to have. Because
Opposite
every...
direction.
Exactly.
Well, it's not a
So-
giant sail, so it'll probably be much less.
Well, it's probably.
So for scale,
But
A 1 square meter solar sail generates the same amount of momentum as a post-it note on the back of your hand. That's just solar radiation. That's not laser.
Right. But what I'm saying is that 10-meter array itself, how much energy are they going to have to keep into station keeping that thing so that it can beam out?
Probably not as much as, I mean, assuming it's a laser array, it probably is denser. It's obviously way denser than the micron thick light sail.
You can tell all of us are our expertise are photon.
We're
physics.
gonna no guys, we're gonna figure this out right now. Let's do our part
let's-
for NASA.
Let's pull up the whiteboard and scratch this out real quick. Help those boys out.
Let me
Now we're
write
using
in the
miles per
sand.
hour or kilometers per hour. Let's get that figured out right now before we fuck it up.
No.
Hey,
you
We're
no
doing
Mars rover
eagles
point.
per
Freedom unit.
No Mars rover.
eagles per Humvee.
Launch that sucker in feet and program it in meters.
Let's do it in parsecs.
Star Wars logic. Let's just-
Okay, pause. Does everyone know why the Kessel Run is measured in parsecs?
They addressed this in the Han Solo movie.
Yes.
Did they?
Then
I haven't
answer
seen it.
It's
Then
Yeah, they
answer.
did.
okay. So it's basically shortening the route through that area,
Right.
as opposed to it's taking a shortcut versus going through the actual route.
And why?
That's all it is.
Why is the shortcut dangerous or not preferred?
It
Big
has something to
alien
do with
creature.
because of the mass of the star. Because of the mass of
It's
it,
a
it
black
adds
hole.
time. Yeah.
There's a black hole in the center of the maelstrom, so he was cocky enough to go closer to the maelstrom and survive than anyone else that has ever done it.
I thought that was like some
Han
sort of
Solo.
creature from the movie. I don't remember. Anyway,
American hero.
No.
All right, it's Han Solo.
yeah, I've only seen the movie once.
Speaking of Han Solo, Brandon, lean over just a little bit. No,
Sideways, not forward.
Side.
Backward. Wrong axis.
That is going to be probably the biggest ship I own in Star Citizen, personally.
Oh, so are you buying it in game or?
I'll buy it in game. I can't pay real money for that ship.
No.
Say, go and
fair
bangle.
enough.
Fuck it. Why not get a
Yeah,
15
Mercury
or
Star
however big
Runner.
that thing is? What is it? 6 kilometers of bangle?
No,
is it?
Bengal
Something
was
like
only
that.
going to be like 1 kilometer, but
See?
it got bigger. I think it was like 1.1 kilometer, but
Everything got bigger in Star Citizen.
yeah, I think that
The
even
scope,
the
the money,
Perseus is going to grow
systems.
You think the Perseus is going to
a
grow?
little bit. Yeah,
I think they've got it pretty dialed in. They've gotten really
I
on
think-
top
I think
of
it's gonna be like
staying
20
pretty close to scope.
20 meters bigger. I think it's going to be a small growth, but I think it's
Now
gonna
the
be
real
big.
question is, when the fuck
Interesting.
is the game going to be released? And will it be before my youngest goes to college?
Does it
It
matter?
will be epic when it does.
I would hope
yeah,
so.
then you and your son can,
In
I have a
Unless-
working theory. I think now that like graphics card processing has gotten like significantly better. It's jumped leaps and bounds this year, which is one of the good things about 2020, which there are very
True.
few and far between. I wonder if the data processing side, like on the server side, if they can get that stuff figured out. I think it's going to be, I want to say in the next 5 years.
Some
It's gonna be
AMD epic
completely-
CPUs.
Yeah, and then you also have the thing with, I mean, kind of going with what Brandon's about to talk about. Like all these big tech companies are playing with new architectures on the CPU side. I mean, Amazon's doing one too, and yep, ARM. Amazon's
those
doing
away.
a new thing. Apple's
If they
doing
don't
a
have
new
an
thing.
outage again.
It might be interesting to see. I wonder if they were waiting a little bit on the tech side for what they want to eventually build in
Yeah.
terms of their epic
see.
fucking scope. I
All
don't know,
right, Brandon.
Just a random thought.
M1 plus 10 equals 10.
Yes. So software developer Alexander Graf was able to make some tweaks to the Windows on ARM image and get it running on an M1 powered Macintosh. So that's the custom Apple Silicon chip, the M1.
So boot camp for M1 confirmed.
Well, I mean, not confirmed. It's possible, though. There's not an actual hardware blocker for that, which is kind of in line with what Craig, and I'm going to slaughter his last name, Craig Federighi, Apple's
DeBroglie?
VP of Software Engineering. Huh?
Stupid joke. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Apple's VP of Software Engineering said last week that it was really up to Microsoft to get Windows running natively on Apple Silicon. With the work Graf has put in, it doesn't seem like it's going to be much of a stretch to see this being a possibility within the next few months. Graf said in a tweet that the experience was pretty snappy and that even the x86 emulation layer was running well in the Windows on ARM.
Oh, cool.
He said it's not as fast as applications being run in Rosetta 2, Apple's x86 emulation layer, but the experience was close. So it's interesting to see that, maybe boot camp will be a real thing on the M1 Max, and kind of makes me want one. I don't
do
like
it.
Macs, but it's
new
I
and
don't know.
shiny, Brandon.
It's new and
And it
shiny.
has
And
arms.
I have a problem. I have a very big problem with new
Okay,
tech.
well,
You gotta
talk
wait
about
to the
new tech
second
for a
or
second.
third generation in this case.
I know. Hey, yeah, I waited for the second generation of the Surface Go. And he's nice so far. But if you, I don't know how many of our listeners or watchers are Mac owners, and then of those, the cross section that are technically proficient and not faint of heart, but Graf has actually put together detailed instructions on how to modify Windows on ARM to run on the M1 Max. So, I mean, if anyone out there listening, watching, has an M1 Mac that they maybe want to send to me, I'm happy to play with it. Yeah?
Why not? Fuck it.
No?
What do you got to lose? I mean, we've been doing this for
I mean,
25 episodes. We're experts now.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So it's legit.
I mean, the MacBook Air is only $600 or $700, right? That's
I've actually thought about getting one, partly to have the experience with Mac OS because I need to learn it better, but it is kind of exciting at some level. It's the fact that Apple is doing what they're doing means that it's going to become the industry standard. Just what's going to happen.
well, and I've been, me and ARM, and yeah, I love that architecture. I think it is going to be the way of the future. I've actually been having conversations with some of my work coworkers, and work coworkers. I said that.
Like
It's
as opposed to your home
It's
coworkers.
Yeah. Yeah. Hell, why not? Maybe. But one of the things they keep bringing up is, well, this M1 chip must be huge for Windows, and look at how well Apple's doing it versus how poorly Microsoft is doing it. And I think it's important to bring up the fact that Microsoft is giving you an option by having it on Intel or ARM or AMD. They're not locking it in place. Macintosh, Apple is locking you in place on the ARM. That's why their developers are going to, come out and be like, hey, look, here's the new ARM compiled instruction set. Here's this program compiled for ARM natively. Whereas the Microsoft development, like all of the program developers are looking at this new thing going, oh, God, why do we have to support this? Is it beneficial for us to recompile a program to run on this hardware? No, for them it's not, because the majority of computers right now are x86 computers. But what I'm hoping this will
It's gonna
do
shift. Yeah.
is, these developers who have both Windows and Apple or Macintosh software are going to go, it's not that much more of a step to take this and just run it through the compiler again, except check the Windows box. That's my hope. We'll see if that actually happens, though.
Well, again, because Apple is taking the leap, and as you were in this case, like, I think one of the issues that they're having is, yes, the x86 emulation works, okay, but like, I think one of the, like, what is it, Final Cut Pro, which is a mainstay of, well, creators. I think they're a year. They're saying like a year or year and a half before they can build a fully native Final Cut Pro on the Apple M1.
Wow.
I mean, that's
I think so. But so to do a little bit of additional clarification, so the way the Rosetta 2 emulation layer works, from what it sounds like, from the research I've done, it sounds like when you're running that the first time, that Rosetta 2 layer is actually converting it into an ARM binary and then saving that locally to be cached and used. Whereas each time you run an application on the Windows emulation layer, what it's doing is just kind of trying to convert it into ARM specific, but it's not actually maintaining or retaining any cache of that. So every
it's having to
restart,
compile it every time.
it's redoing it all over again, which is why x86 emulation takes such a hit on Windows versus the way Apple's doing it. Kind of another
Smarter,
little
better,
interesting tidbit there.
Apple.
Yeah.
All right, well, Brandon, go eat yourself.
So
I
interesting.
don't want to.
Actually, I have one tidbit to add because you were talking about Final Cut Pro.
Okay.
DaVinci Resolve 17 works on M1.
Do
Really?
they have a Windows on ARM version?
Sorry,
I
I
wouldn't be
just pulled this
surprised,
up.
honestly, actually.
I would say it probably wouldn't.
Which does support
Probably
the
would
M1
be
processor.
terrible, but
I would be surprised if it supported the M1 processors, but it would not support Windows on ARM. So, well, it's free, so whatever. Free for the regular version, 300 for the studio version. I need to point that out. So, but no
can use it
monthly
for free.
payments. No monthly payments. You don't have to use Adobe.
Yeah, I've had to start doing some of the Adobe licensing at work. Adobe. Anyway, yeah, Adobe can go eat themselves, perhaps.
Yeah, they can. It would taste terrible, but
So, yeah, there's a new concept created by a group of mad lad American scientists.
let's just say it's tongue
Well,
in
you
cheek.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I like where this is going, but keep going.
Excuse me a
You
moment.
can grow your own steak in the comfort of your own home.
Oh, yeah.
But what's the catch? It's made of you.
Yeah,
Specifically harvested cells from the inside of your cheek.
It sounds chewy.
so this article, when I read it, they had this picture of this Wagyu amazing steak, and I was like, oh my god, okay, this might be delicious. And then I scroll down and I see what it really is, and it looks like pink slime.
Yep.
So, hot dog substitute.
Soylent Green is people.
Yeah, and
I would try it.
No.
I don't know that I would.
I would try it once.
So
Nope.
You might
once
even like
maybe
it.
Pay
all
me.
it takes.
Maybe.
Could not even pay me.
Why not?
$250,000 wouldn't do it. Nope.
I probably would.
You could give me the money instead of him then. And I'll
Okay,
do it.
well, let's because now I'm curious what you guys think. You guys have heard of the Beyond Burger, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I am
I like
more
it.
likely
So,
to eat the pink
the-
slime burger than that.
But
Actually
I
like the
would
Beyond
try
Burger.
the Beyond Burger.
okay, yeah,
I
because and then specifically, let's say like Burger King. Don't they have that Impossible Whopper, whatever the hell,
Yeah.
Yep.
whatever
Yeah.
marketing thing? I've had it. It tastes like meat. Tastes fine.
Here's my question
And it's-
regarding those. And this is actually the thing that will make me either eat it or not. And I have a theory. So, can you cook it rare?
Yes. Specifically, the Impossible Burger is impregnated with a substance that imitates the blood seeping from meat, and its rarity goes from pink to red.
Yep.
Okay.
So-
It's
maybe I
actually
would try
got
it.
the liquid is protein based,
Yeah.
although it's organically or not organically, humanely sourced protein, from what I understand.
So my other issue with this, now that we've addressed my first issue, which we'd still have to test, is that from what I've read, it's not actually any healthier than actual meat for you.
It's not healthier, but it is less carbon intensive. It takes less farmland to make it. It takes less carbon to get it to you. That's the only possible argument for it, in my opinion. If you go the strictly vegan, vegetarian route, they don't want it. They don't want something that reminds them of eating meat because they're probably in the framework of ethical or at least humanely sourced.
It
And
depends.
they don't want anything to look like meat. They don't want things to taste like meat.
That's
They
a
don't care.
big
Yeah,
statement.
it's
That's a huge
highly
statement.
dependent.
Yeah, because I've actually known more vegetarians that are vegetarian, and this might be because of my specific social circle and
Right.
my own biases, but I have actually known more vegetarians that are that way because of either health or because they cannot eat meat again for specific reasons like that. So if you heard of that interesting tick, it was in Australia. So if it bites you, you become allergic to meat.
Yep.
To me, it's like the scariest thing
Australia.
ever. It's like
Yeah.
that,
And you're
then
moving
black
towards
holes.
it. You're moving within 1,000 miles of it, Cody.
I know I am. It's okay.
Okay. All right.
I'm just gonna be suspicious of all Australians.
I'm going to ship it to you.
So now I'm curious.
And
now,
all
I might
packages
have
from
to
that
look that
guy.
up. If you get bitten by that tick, are you allergic to the Impossible Burger?
It's not meat, so I wouldn't. Well, it is protein though.
But it's got a protein based.
yeah.
This specific one, but
Or
I'm
are you
wondering if
allergic
they can
to
create
your own meat? Are you allergic to the pink slime meat that you create? Are you allergic to yourself?
Is it more of a stem cell thing? Like it's just epithelial cells that they
So-
convert.
So let me. Yeah.
Can I grow
I'll
a new
finish
me?
What I've written. No. So, getting back to the eating yourself, this thought-provoking concept was created as not as a realistic source of food, but instead as an art piece. What this group wanted to accomplish was to pose the question, what would be the sacrifices we need to make to be able to continue consuming meat at the pace we are, and in the future, who will be able to afford animal meat and who may have to culture meat
Human meat.
themselves. Yeah. And as taboo as this is, it's technically not cannibalism, because cannibalism
It's
as
auto
defined
cannibalism.
by dictionary, well, as defined by dictionary.com, cannibalism is the eating of human flesh by another human.
So if I eat
So-
the meat you grow, then it's cannibalism.
Yeah. Don't share
No,
your steak, otherwise that's cannibalism.
It's narcissistic cannibalism. It's not a narcissistic auto cannibalism.
Yeah.
It's
It's
like me cutting off my
weird.
hand and eating it. It's auto cannibalism.
So I guess the
Just
question
reminds
is
me
this...
of that one Simpsons episode.
Right.
Wait, which one?
The one where Homer, like, he has some sort of an accident, his fingers land on the grill, and then he eats his fingers.
Ooh, they're
and
so
then
tasty.
he starts, like,
yeah.
cutting bits of him. Yeah. Weird,
Huh.
disgusting.
Treehouse of Horror episode, I'm guessing.
Yes,
did
it
it.
was.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
So I'm wondering
So-
if... Sorry, this question. Is this... Obviously, there's some scientific merit behind this, because those are questions you have to ask. But is it also almost a protest, per se, of our current habits?
Effectively.
Yeah, a little bit. And I'm kind of getting into that. So the name for this concept is the Aureobos steak. The harvested cells are fed serum derived from expired donated blood. The initial cells are deposited into a pre-grown scaffold of mushroom mycelium, and no animals were caused harm during the creation of the prototype.
Except for the person who
Something
had
the
cheek
creators
harvest.
designed. Well, and that's not harmed. They're got with
It's
a cotton
swab.
swab.
It's a swab, not a cut
It's
excision.
yeah. It's not like you're scraping a razor inside of your cheek to get cells. You just need a few on a cotton swab. So the creators specifically designed this from the start to not cause any harm to animals, specifically to create a statement about how other cultured meat products currently in production and in planning stages are being done. So most of the other cultured meats are done using FBS, or fetal bovine serum, and it's a protein-rich growth liquid that, yeah,
It's
right
cow
now for
stem cells.
yeah, well, specifically fetal cow cells.
Yeah.
So it means that fetal
They're killing
cow
calves.
dies.
Killing
Yes.
baby calves. Interesting.
So just a liter of the liquid, how much do you guys think that goes for?
It's got to be up there with, like...
$100,000.
It's one of
Like
those things that's like going to
rattlesnake
have
venom.
an exponential decline in price as manufacturing goes up.
Yes, but can we live with our souls as all those baby cattle?
As somebody who grew up on a ranch, easily. Like,
Veal.
no, you know how many friends that I made with, like, you know, calves that then grew up and became food. It's something that you, as a child on a ranch, you get over. It's not even something to get over. Yeah, it is.
It's different when they are raised and they are grown to full size
I
and
named
then they're
them.
slaughtered.
There's one named Chaser and Flatface.
How many calves did you kill and eat?
I didn't kill any of them. But
How many calves, like, were
I don't
killed
know,
to eat,
lots.
then?
well, the calves themselves, I don't know. The calves.
I mean-
grew up, but
Economically, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So it's between 300 and 700 euros, or about 350 to 850 US dollars for a liter.
so how much does that
Which-
create? That's the question.
I couldn't, in my limited time today to research this, I couldn't actually find how much it takes to create like a 12-ounce steak or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it's still a lot of money, and that doesn't take into account the fact that you are killing fetal animals to get this. So although this eat yourself concept is a little weird, as a thought-provoking conversation, it kind of does exactly what it's supposed to. And I just have to say you to the whole
So-
thing.
I'm. This is kind of a tangent. How many of you guys know how bone marrow transplants are performed?
I don't. I know. I've heard it's painful. I've heard it's
So-
super painful.
It used to be.
Okay.
Yeah. Now
So
it's
what
done
they
differently.
what they do now is they inject the donor for 3 subsequent days with a serum that pulls their stem cells into their bloodstream. Then you transfuse those blood stem cells into the recipient, and wham bam, thank you, man, you're done. That's a bone marrow transplant. That's stem cells. Why aren't we doing this for calves? Why do we have to fucking kill the cows to do this? If you just need the stem cells, there's other fucking ways to get stem cells.
Because
But
it's not
again-
the stem cells. It's the protein-rich serum that is needed. It's not really the stem cells.
Okay, then
And I
bloodlet some fucking full-grown cows. That's what you need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. When we have Senta cow, that'll be interesting too, as level 1
Well,
text.
I was gonna
likes
say it. To me,
say.
it's more the. It's just a condemnation of our current habits. That's to me what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
if we do continue on it, which we probably will, it will obviously be what it needs to be. But you think about how food is processed now. Like, I love sausage, but I do not like knowing how it is made. It's kind of the
Yep.
same concept. Like, and going back to like the Impossible Burger and everything, if you didn't know any better, would you care?
How many of you guys have visited a slaughterhouse, like during production? If they are good at what they do not traumatize the cows before killing them. It's not.
Right.
It is not conducive to good meat to actually cause stress to the
But-
animal.
Right. It makes it very gamey if you do.
Right, but the idea of that is, I mean, I grew up on a ranch too, and I understand all that. But if you're a child and you go to one of these places or whatever, I mean, it's
Then
specific
you need
again.
new fucking parents.
Right, but here's the thing, a lot of people don't at least in society, at least in the United States, in the city, don't really equate meat with killing an animal of some sort.
Yeah.
It's there, and they know it, but they don't understand it. It's the same
They
reason
don't
why,
see
They
the
don't take it
process.
to heart.
like, they think milk comes from a carton, not from a cow. Like, they understand it does come from the cow, but their brain automatically goes to the carton first. You get meat from a store. You don't get meat from an animal. That's the thing that's
By the way,
People
I
would have to- it
did
would
go to
change
a
them a little bit.
slaughterhouse when I was a kid.
That's
Yes,
where
but-
Star Wars Episode 8 really ruined blue milk for me, by the way.
well, just don't drink it directly from the alien, whatever the fuck that thing was.
The alien tit.
Yeah, don't take it from that. It'll be fine.
Don't learn where the
Just
blue
drink
milk
it from the
comes
carton
That's all
like the
I'm
rest
saying.
of that planet did.
No, I think,
love how-
think it's good to know where your food comes from. I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree. And
I mean, Luke, my son, I want to say he was 5 when I, broke the news. Oh, yeah. He was wanting to know why there were so many cows. And it's like, well,
because they're delicious.
this is why there are so many cows here. This is where hamburger comes from.
And
steak
explaining
comes
that
from,
to
and-
Delilah at 7 years old, and she is like borderline militant vegetarian now. Because Peppa the pig. What do you mean bacon comes from pig?
Now,
I
yeah,
mean, it
pigs
comes into an
are-
interesting moral argument on some level. If you really
Oh, yeah.
think
I have
about
very
it,
little
but-
problem killing and eating cows, but pigs have personality. Pigs are pretty cool. Like, pigs are smart.
But
yeah, I know.
bacon-
Cows
I
have personality.
I am
Yeah,
racist
bacon.
I mean,
or
Bacon.
speciesist.
God, bacon.
Yeah,
Bacon.
bacon.
well, there you also deal with what a sentient creature is. Like, pigs are on the,
Now
at least mentally,
No, they're not.
they're arguably on a higher. I
They're about where
disagree
your dog
entirely,
is.
actually, but
Yeah, they're about dog
Yeah,
intelligence.
which there's some
And
really
different
smart
cultures don't
dogs.
even care about. Well, they do, but some
Yeah, I
cultures
mean,
don't necessarily care about eating dogs.
General
either. I mean,
Tso's chicken is my favorite.
Is that shout out to Shadowlands? If you want to know more
Yeah.
about that, read Shadowlands by Patrick Wynn.
Yep.
it's a good book.
Well, I think that about winds us down for this episode. Cody, where can we find you?
You can find me not here, unfortunately. It's snow where I am. I contributed an article to the techpirate.net, so I'll say that I'm a contributor now. And you can find me at YouTube at Striving to Fail or Striving for Failure. Who knows? One of these guys does. Anyway. Or
Striving to fail.
yeah, thank you. Or on Steam as Psychonitrous, Blizzard as Zito Valder. And yeah. How about?
Do you have any projects you're working on
Do I have any projects?
for the website?
I don't at the moment. Currently, I'm still doing learn the CCNA with this guy over here. It's been fun. Yep, just assume that all people are wrong, and it'll make your life easier. This course is brilliant, by the way. Well, I have kind of a back burner project for it, but yeah, Vive versus Index. It'll be kind of dated because both of those are not now the newest systems, but you should get a Vive.
Which means secondhand market will be useful. It's always useful for reviews.
Ooh, you should get a Vive.
Or no,
Not the
I mean
Index?
Index, not
Oh,
Vive.
I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
that was a plot twist for me.
Yep. Get an Index. It's amazing. Oh.
Okay. Colton, where can we find you?
I am a contributor to the techpirate.net. You can also find me on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube under Seeker4761.
That's how many times the word cattywampus has ever been said in history. No, I didn't forget about what
Cattywampus.
you said earlier. No.
Now we're at 4,763. So we've already passed that. That's in the past, Cody. Move on. Move on, brother.
Let it go.
Charlie, what about you?
Charlie Stifler.
Hey, whoa. What projects are you working on, Colton?
No.
Oh, crap. I was hoping you'd skip that. Really not anything big at the moment.
He's also
Currently,
doing CCNA.
I am doing the CCNA thing, so that's kind of taking priority. I'm still looking to put up news articles as I see them, tech-wise. Like, generally when the internet goes down, I'm always interested in knowing why YouTube didn't work or why Amazon was slightly slower than it was the day before. So I'm always on the lookout for stories, at least from that side. Hopefully here I'll be doing some more product reviews. I got some coming in the works, and hopefully in the next couple weeks they will be up. So,
Sweet.
boom.
Brandon, can I talk now?
Yes, you may. Where
Oh,
can
thank
we
you.
find you, Charlie?
You can find me here every week as a
In a
contributor
solar
to
field.
TWIL and Facebook, social media, Steam, YouTube as Milnor, Mijolnoir. At basically every @ that you can think of. And also, I am working on the first pass of my draft. Now I have to beat this asshole down here to how effective of a tech pirate article to write. I will be bothering this asshole and that asshole to help me, but I will be contributing to the techpirate.net soon enough. My goal is December 30th at the latest. So,
Okay.
Brandon, take us home.
Cool. Well, I am Brandon Vader. You can, of course, find me on thetechpirate.net, YouTube as The Tech Pirate, and here every week. And yeah, I have 2 interesting articles in the works. Kind of a gift guide for this interesting little keeps glitching in and out.
So is that the Razer Kinshi,
controller?
or is that something else?
No, it's not. It is a much, much cheaper Chinese knockoff.
Right? If it works, it works.
Yeah. I want to have the review up for this in the next few days because, honestly, so far, this, if you have someone who is kind of into like games on their cell phone or something, is awesome. And it even works. This actually works with 10-inch tablets too. But the more interesting article, which is going to start the first, I'm going to be only using the Microsoft Surface Go 2 for all of my computer needs.
Brendan, no. You'll
Well,
never make it.
We're
For
not
a
going to be
month.
gaming with him for a while.
For a month.
Damn.
So that
podcast
Are you
is
going to
gonna be on
stream via Steam?
yes, I am.
Ah, it's cheating. It's cheating.
Not okay. Here's my reasoning on that. I tried to sign up for a Shadow 2 weeks ago so that then I could truly test using only this hardware and then cloud streaming services. I have Xbox Xstream. The problem is that's only for Android. It does work on emulated Android. I have tried it already. It's actually pretty good. But yeah, for PC gaming, I am definitely going to be using Steam because Shadow is currently backed up until the end of December, which is going to be past my review date for this. But
So does that mean the podcast will also be recorded from that too? Nice.
yes, it will.
Ooh.
And I'm torn on whether to just use, like, I've got a docking station so I could just hook in with the existing camera and stuff, but I think I actually want to try it with the camera on here, see if there's any sort of quality improvement over the Logitech C920
You know what?
or whatever.
Monitor you should get to couple that with.
The 4K TV that Charlie's using.
Oh, I was gonna say actually the Dell U2421E for
And
all
what
of
Cody
your
wrote
What
about.
is that?
USB-C.
Cody wrote about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
No, I
I
won't.
think yeah,
Fine.
I'm going to use my existing hardware. So the first video that's going to go out that I'm going to try and record this weekend is kind of going step by step through what I normally use. So my regular laptop and then my desktop to kind of give an idea of what I'm going from and then what I'm going down to. Because this only has an M3 processor. So it's going to be interesting.
Cool.
I prototyped a little bit today at work just to see if I could get through like a work day with it. And I absolutely can. It actually works with our Dell docking stations, a USB-C docking station. So I may have to pick one of those up on eBay.
So this is gonna be interesting when Star Citizen drops a really big patch in December
I know.
because they're going to. You know that they will.
I know.
Like, Brandon, join us
I
on Star
know.
Citizen.
Well, like I said, I'm starting this the first, so yeah.
We'll miss
I don't
you.
know. We'll have to see. I may have to
There might be a caveat.
pop on the desktop for some stuff, but
Yeah, just
You
use
know,
it when you're on the
if I
clock
do-
for the Tech Pirate.
Shh, we won't tell.
well, nah. No, and I mean that's one of the things is if I do cheat and find myself going, dang, I had to do this on this, that's a valid result
Yeah,
to the test.
exactly. You learn stuff from failures, and that'll be interesting to document too. Yeah, it's a cool experiment. I salute you, good sir.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, thanks for joining us on this episode of This Week I'm Learning. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as on YouTube at This Week I'm Learning. For you social media peeps out there, you can find us on Twitter at ThisTWIL. If you'd like to contact us, you can always send us an email to twill@thetechpirate.net. We'll see you guys next week.
Next week, 26th episode.
Bye.
Is your audio will be out of sync? No.
Be careful what you ask for.
My server is hiding treasure for you, Cody. For us.
Oh, okay. I was like, it's a little bit
Terraria's
late to
building.
get on the, like the cryptocurrency mining.
Way late. And I keep being so hurt when I look at Bitcoin prices.
Oh.
But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. That's rough.
You should have bought Dogecoin, brother. I have like
Or
literally
Ethereum years ago.
6,000 coins in Dogecoin. If it ever goes up, it never will. If it ever goes to like a penny, I will be rich.
Yeah, true.
I know it is, but it still has value according to the fucking stock market. So it can go up. It won't. But
You could even say it's a meme at this point, Cody. That's a discussion for later.
oh, that's right. I still got to add the memes. All right, whatever. Remind me to add memes. Keep this recording. I'll watch the recording. This is me reminding me to do that.